What's going on, people? CP3 live in the lab, coming to you a little bit later with Sports on the Hill podcast on True Radio Network. But if you already tuned into the Sports OTHP page, you see Robbie. He started about 8:15 covering the NBA, talking a little bit of college football. I actually got the national championship on now. Alabama's up 14-7 over Ohio State with 12:40 left in the second. So we definitely going to talk about the Washington football team. Going to talk about wild card weekend. Want to recap the season, and we're going to preview some of the upcoming divisional round games, and we're going to preview the offseason for the Washington football team. Then we're also going to talk some NHL preview with the Washington Capitals season starting on Thursday. Can't wait to talk about that. We got Anna K and RobbieG ready to talk NHL. So be sure to stay tuned because we about to go live.
You got to have a concept. You have a great concept. You guys are doing it, man, and it's an honor for me to just be, a small rock, man, in your mountain. I'm gonna pop a top in your honor.
Mr. Doc Walker blessed us with his presence and knowledge.
We want to welcome in our next special guest, Haley Skarupa. She's a three-time world champion in women's ice hockey and most recently won Olympic gold with Team USA.
The Cap Stadium series is definitely my favorite, obviously. I'm a huge Caps fan, I always have been, and to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, our gold medals to there and share it with everyone in this area was really, really special for me, and just the support and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area, and you can feel that there at that game.
Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on True Radio Network.
CP3. Many can copy us, but none can duplicate us. By CP3.
Alrighty, well, I think that we will bring in Carol now. We'll talk a little football. We'll bring Brian back in a little bit. We'll talk some football with him, as well as how the results of this Wizards game. So I think Carol should be coming on in just one moment.
RobbieG, what's going on, my man? CP3 just got in the building. Welcome to another episode of Sports on the Hill podcast on True Radio Network. We got the Washington football team breakdown, recap of the season, and we're going to talk some.
Carol, I need your camera on now.
Oh, my camera didn't come on?
Not on my screen. On the Zoom.
Oh, I thought I clicked it. There we go.
There we go. I see your face.
All right, I was wondering. I could have swore I clicked it, man. I was doing a lot of stuff going on over here.
You're all good. All good. I just
all
right,
cool. Appreciate that. Yeah, I thought I hit it, man. I know I hit the mic. I thought I hit the camera too. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about in this second hour. I caught a little bit of the NBA roundtable with you guys, and appreciate y'all getting the show started a little early. I got caught up at work a little bit later than expected. So as always, appreciate y'all knowledge and insight as always. I know we got DujunneaB calling in pretty soon. And,
he's already on the line?
He's already on. All right, and I mentioned I was watching the national championship game while I was listening to the roundtable, and then Alabama's up 14-7 with the ball on their 35, looking to get some more points to go. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm right, 14-7. My eyes play tricks on me. But, I'm not a big college fan, so I figured y'all already talked about that a little bit, too. And,
we actually haven't talked about it because those guys weren't watching it, but I thought DujunneaB might. So maybe we can sneak in a little something segue with bringing in his thoughts on it. Let's go ahead and bring in DujunneaB. There we go. DujunneaB, have you been watching this championship game at all?
Yeah, I've been watching it, man. Both teams seem to be playing pretty well. I think Alabama's a little quicker right now offensively. Uh, Fields still look like he hasn't settled in yet, but so far so good. I'd say for if you're looking at a good game, looking for a good game here, I think so far it's a pretty good game, but it definitely favors Alabama. I think they're in a really nice rhythm right now.
Yeah, I have to say I usually watch the football final a little bit closer, and I'm definitely going to swap TVs in a moment. Been more focused since we've been doing a Wizards roundtable to make that be my one in front of me to give scoring updates. But I'm not an Alabama fan, as I am an Aggie fan, as we have documented many times on this show. As an Aggie fan, I didn't think that Ohio State should have gotten over them because they played more games. I am wrong. Ohio State has made it this far. They deserve to be in this game. I will eat some crow on that. And now I'm kind of hoping
Big
for Ohio.
fumble right there too.
Oh yeah,
Big
Ohio.
fumble.
I'm rooting for Ohio State though, and that's unfortunate. Uh, just because of the rivalry between Alabama and A&M that's kind of started, and that was the only loss, right, of the season for A&M. So
Right.
it's hard to root for that team. So that's where I stand, at least, on that. I appreciate their greatness. It's one of those things. It's like the Patriots, right? I appreciate
Right.
the greatness of the Patriots, or what
Right.
was the Patriots when they had Tom Brady. But now, it's hard. I don't, it is what it is. But let's talk about what people have come here to talk about, which is the great play of the Washington football team. I think that people shouldn't overlook that they did prove that they deserve to be in that game, and they put a gutsy effort out there, and they actually got closer than the spread. So if you bet on the Washington football team and you went by the spread, you actually won that game. And so I'm very impressed by the team. I think that there were some mistakes. I guess I'll turn it over to Carol to get started with this coverage, but I'll just say from the top that I was proud to be a Washington football team fan. Anyone that says that going and losing in the first round isn't worth it isn't true. I think they gained a ton of experience with that game, and I was really impressed with how well they played. Carol, what were some of your thoughts?
If you tuned into the post game, you heard my initial thoughts, and I'm still a little bit upset. I can't wait to get your take, DujunneaB, because we haven't spoke about the game, so I'm really anxious to see if you saw some of the same things that I saw. Because I saw a lot of Tampa Bay offensive linemen holding our D-line, which was allowing Tom Brady to have time. I saw a play where Tim Settle was in an arm bar right in front of the ref. Wrestling move, didn't call it. I saw Deron Payne getting held almost every play, and he still came up with 2 sacks. Chase Young, you saw them grabbing the jersey up under the shoulder pads, which they never call, which I wish they would. And they played a great game. Heineke definitely made a statement with that game, and definitely I hope they do intend to bring him back and at least, let him try out and see what he can do, because 1 month on the roster, and you saw the report you had with Sims, obviously, like they were talking about on the broadcast, they were obviously working together. So, I mean, his fight, his hunger, and the way he played, I always tell folks, you don't need a big name or a first-round draft pick to play quarterback. You just need someone that has that hunger and that desire to be better. And I feel like he showed that on the field, especially playing with a separated AC joint when he went back out there after he went back to the locker room and took that shot. So, first, I want to know if you saw the same thing that I saw with the holding, and what did you take away from Taylor Heineke's play?
Yeah, I mean, it was clear. There's a lot of holding going on. Unfortunately, I think people need to just get used to it. And I hate to say that, but in a lot of these big games, I think we're quite aware that the football team is not only playing the opponent, sometimes they're playing the ref. You can't expect them to give Washington calls. They were egregious. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were some awful holds. I think I saw Settle. I saw Montez Sweat get held up to the point where he was stood up was unable to get to Brady. Likely would have gotten to him. And that was, I believe, on one of the touchdown passes. There's a few throws over the middle where you see guys that are going to get there. They're clearly holding. One was actually a takedown, which they called on Washington, but I guess the rules don't apply on both sides. I don't know. But yes, I am aware. I see it pretty much. There's something in just about every big game that Washington played this season where the refs had their whistles in their throats, and just were unwilling to make the calls. So it's unfortunate. I think I've been saying it and have said it for years. There's definitely a problem with the league and Washington, for sure. And just going forward, I like the way the guys played and just didn't allow that to affect the way they were going to go about their business. Taylor Heinicke did an excellent job. That's what you want to see from a quarterback, and his play was more than just sometimes you have some guys, I think we've seen it in the Chase Daniels of the world. You see these guys, they have one hot game, they come in and they make some plays and play very well. But you can tell he worked hard this past week to prepare for this game. His attitude, you could tell it was very infectious, and that's what I'll say the difference between him and the guy who was released. The importance of having a really good attitude and approach. That's something that's needed in a leader, and you can see that with Heinicke. The guys just seemed to rally, even when they didn't do so well. There were some mistakes. He never let that get to him at all. I mean, he seemed to be pretty stoned. He had a lot of dog in him, and I liked it a lot. The fight that he had, the ability to keep plays alive, his awareness, his looking down the field and going through progressions, I thought was another thing that was just. It was fun to watch, man. It was really fun to watch, and the guys just continued to rally throughout the game. For them to be in the position they were in offensively, you're talking about your third quarterback. You're talking about a guy who hadn't even been on this roster that long. It says a lot about what he was doing as far as studying the offense. Now I understand he knows about this offense. Mm-hmm. He's played for Ron before, but this is a playoff game. This is against one of the. I tout one of the better teams in the league right now, top 5 in my opinion. And for them to put together that performance offensively, given the circumstances, was something to be proud of. Definitely something to be proud of. And I said it after the game. I feel like he deserves an opportunity and a shot to compete for the job. I'm not saying this guy's the future, but I'm also saying that there's some options you can go with, and if there's some reasonable options that you can go and win on, and not give away a lot and hurt your franchise as far as gathering more pieces that they need to solidify a team that's on the up and up. I think he deserves an opportunity to come here and compete, and definitely, if anything, be a backup, because he's proven that he can do at least that. He can at least come in and give your team an opportunity and a chance to win. You got to like the way he didn't turn the ball over too. I mean, the decision making was just impeccable, and I'm proud of the guy. I think it's pretty cool. Pretty cool that he was able to put that together for the football team.
I definitely agree. I mean, they said that he was taking all the snaps with Alex being on light work. So when they made the announcement before the game that he was going to be starting, I didn't really have an issue with that. And I also watched a couple of the coaches' press conferences, and I actually watched his show this week on television. And he was just saying that if Taylor has to go, he has full confidence that he'll be able to run the offense. It was just about Scott Turner adapting the play calling to Taylor, and I say Turner did an okay job. I mean, I know they were the top run defense team in the league, but you're not going to get it when you're running on third down out of shotgun. And I want to know why we didn't see Peyton Barber, the battering ram, because he's a downhill runner, and I think he could have did more damage, running downhill when they was running, trying to run off tackle and run inside to try to loosen them up. I think that would have been a better game plan. And I was wondering, where did the running back screens go? He kept on doing the wide receiver screens, but the running back screens, there were a couple of times that they were so aggressive that if they would have called the running back screen instead of a fake run, trying to run out of shotgun, they had a couple of opportunities where it was like 10 or 15 yards of green in front of them if they would have called that screen. And I'm like, I know he's still learning, but you can't run hot and cold like that. Like we saw one game, he just kept throwing wide receiver screens over and over again, and then he doesn't do it at all. And it's like, being an offensive coordinator, you have to keep the defense on their toes. And if you start taking stuff away from what's been successful, or at least keep it in your game plan and give them something to think about, then you're already in a losing battle off the break, because they're taking things off the table that they don't have to worry about because you're not doing it on a consistent basis. And I hope, as I mentioned on the post game, I hope that Coach Rivera, Scott Turner, I hope they sit down and he instills some of his old school football values in him of, running the ball, in a not necessarily a power formation, but at least with the quarterback under center, where you still have the illusion of play action, where that gives the running back at least a shot at getting that third down. See, those are some of the subtle nuances that folks don't think about. When you lining up in shotgun on 3rd and 2, that's giving the defensive lineman a chance to get upfield when he's trying to get the ball, and then you're doing these jet sweeps and stuff like that. You can't always try to outthink the defense. Sometimes you just got to outman them. And I'm hoping we're going to see that progression next year. What did you think about Scott Turner's play calling, DujunneaB?
I mean, it's been what it's been all season, It's up and down. He has some spots where he puts together some really good drives. And then there's spots where there's some plays sprinkled in that you're thinking the offense is moving forward. You're in basically positive down and distance situations, and you, like you said, you're throwing out a wide receiver screen, and really, why not take it to him with a inside run or run over the tackle where you're successful? Or like you said, a running back screen. The defense was pretty aggressive for Tampa. I thought there was a couple of instances, like you said, they could have taken advantage of their aggressiveness, used McKissick or Gibson in that role, and maybe gotten some big gains off of that. The fact of the matter is, we can talk about his play calling. Overall, it had no effect on the game, I believe. I think the first quarter is where the game was lost. Guys putting balls on the ground, Cam Sims to be, exact, it can't be done. Not against a football team that's on paper. I mean, go look at it. In paper, stats, the whole 9 yards should be head above heels above this Washington football team. I mean, hands down. The weapons they have on offense, all of that. And they were able to put together a quality game. And if they don't drop balls that Heineke is putting on point, giving them opportunities to make plays, you probably win this game. It might be close, but you probably win this game. There were points, especially from the second quarter on, that I felt like they had opportunities to win this game. That quarter, the game was lost in the first quarter. Too many balls on the ground, too many key moments where they had opportunities to continue to extend drives and put themselves in position to score points, which I think would have been touchdowns. It really hurt them. That really hurt them. And then, you had some defensive miscues, but again, I'm not going to harp on them too much because, and I'm sure we'll get there, but Tampa did a good job of taking advantage of weaknesses. But offensively, it starts with the drops, man. Too many drops, and that killed this offense. Yeah. But Scotty's been Scotty, and hopefully he improves next year and finds a rhythm, kind of comes into his own and maybe, develops over the offseason and comes and gets a little bit of rhythm and has a better feel for the game. Because there were some plays sprinkled in there where I feel like Heineke bailed him out on several instances where he made some, questionable play calls that really don't go with the flow of what they were doing offensively.
Yeah, I feel that Heineke definitely did uh, make it happen. Salvage some plays like you said, but like you said, the first quarter, I think, because he was holding on to the ball a little bit too long, and then once he got comfortable in the second quarter, you saw him start taking off. So, but yeah, the first quarter, yeah, Cam Sims, that one over the middle, boy, I rewinded that joint like 5 times, man. I was like, that play, like you said, could have been a crucial play right there to answer and to keep the offense moving. So, but we did see, the young wide receivers play better. I mentioned on my post game one of the players. I'm not gonna say disappointed, but I had higher expectations for Isaiah Wright this season. Watching his college tape and the way, like I said, I liken him to Tyreek Hill. I feel like you get him in open space, you get him a ball in different situations, he can make a move and take it to the house with his speed and his looseness. And for some reason, I know, like I said, sometimes it takes wide receivers a little bit longer to develop into the league. The average is like 3 years. You get those freaks of nature that can come in and make an impact off the break. But I was hoping to see more from him. The Sims boys, they are slowly developing, but they're developing. And we still have Kelvin Harmon coming back. You know what you got in Terry. And, depending on what happens with the O-line and Brandon Sheriff, if they can lock him down and get him with a contract, I know they're probably going to, look at the wide receiver position to try to find someone else to help stretch the field to get Terry out of that double team or that bracket he's always in. But Logan Thomas was a pleasant surprise. I wish we could have saw more out of him, but they was covering him pretty well. And with that line that they had, it isn't like he had a lot of time to do what he does. He runs routes with him being ex-quarterback. I feel like he runs routes as good as Jordan Reed did. Only thing is that he stays on the field.
Durable, absolutely, very durable, very durable. Love the way he runs routes. He's very precise, and that's the thing. That's what you need out of a tight end. And he does remind you of Jordan Reed. He reminds you of a healthy Jordan Reed, what we thought that they would have hoped that he would have, panned out to be that here. But I thought they should have used more two tight end sets. I'm not down on Spring at all. I like him. Mm-hmm. He can be inconsistent. I think he had a couple catches. I know he had one. I know of one. And I think if they had used that, that two tight end set, whether it's for run or for pass, I thought that would have added a little bit in there because we all know Terry. There's no way he was 100%. Mm-hmm. He was making plays and making catches and getting down, not striving for anything extra. So you could tell that he was there to make the plays that needed to be made, and he did so. It would have been nice to see them sprinkle some things in with the two tight ends because I think they have two capable tight ends that can make things happen and can make some plays. It can't be any worse than what Cam Sims was doing in the first half, or the first quarter. So, they could have done that and added a little bit. But like I said, overall, offensively, I think you have to be pleased with what they did, given the circumstances. And again, like I've said before, when you look at these two teams and you're looking at the way these guys played and what Tampa had to go through offensively and defensively throughout the season versus what Washington was doing, and then they're coming in with the third quarterback. I'm sure most people thought this was going to be a complete blowout, and the talking heads pretty much proved that they thought that this wasn't, that they didn't have a chance, and they made that a really fun game. Really wish they could have won it though. But at the end of the day, this is great for the franchise, and it's great for fans to be able to see their team coming to at 7-9, of course. But win the division, somebody had to win it, and they didn't just come in and play like, under 500 football team. They really hung well with, like I said, one of the top 5 teams in the league right now.
Yeah.
Real quickly, your key was to sprinkle some sprinkle, right? Is that the ultimate,
That's right. Sprinkle some
Well, what I'm going to say, this was the first game in a long time where I found myself yelling at the TV. Normally, like I say, I sit back and I watch. I had to actually go back and watch the game again because the non-calls were pissing me off so bad because they were in crucial situations, and like you said, they were right there about to get to them, and they basically put him in a wrestling move to stop them from getting the sack, and they didn't call it, but then they call that fluke 15-yard face mask penalty, or Kendall Fuller's hand grazed it, and they threw the 15-yard flag. But then you see our man get hand on the face mask and grab it and tug, and no call. I'm like,
No call.
really? I'm like, come on. I know they love Tom Brady, and I've never been a Tom Brady hater. I'm like, really? This is what it's like to go against him in the playoffs. He's been AFC, so I never really gave a damn. Now he's in the NFC, and they let him get away. I'm like, okay, I see the narrative already being written. Belichick couldn't make the playoffs, but Brady's going to go to the Super Bowl without Belichick and become the greatest quarterback ever. Okay, I see it. But let's talk about the defense. I don't want to go off on that tangent because we'll be here all night. But I feel like the defense played well. There were a lot of I was trolling some social media folks today. I was bored yesterday, so I said, why not? They were talking about the secondary is bad. We need another corner, all this and that. I'm like, first of all, I know that. I mean, like I said, I was trolling, so I knew I was going to get some dumb responses back, but I was astounded at some of the things that these folks were talking about. I'm like, the secondary was supposed to be the weak link of the defense, and you had two corners that were in the top 25 rated PFF for coverage. You had Cameron Curl, a rookie, playing, covering tight ends, which has always been a problem for this team. And the 84 for the Bucks, he wasn't covering him. He was on the other side covering Gronk, and Gronk didn't go off. And then a week before, we saw him against the Eagles, who tight ends always kill us, shut it down. So we actually have a safety that can cover tight ends. You have Landon Collins coming back. You have the front four that's signed for another, 2 years before you got to worry about extending anybody, or a year, I believe. I think Jonathan Allen has one more year. Yeah, so I mean,
you need a linebacker or two.
Yeah, they're definitely going. I saw they cut Sean Deion Hamilton a few hours ago. I was gonna get your take on that, 'cause I know you actually interviewed him and talked with him. And I think if they get some more, because Cole Holcomb, all I can say is monster. 2 years. He has, I think he missed the game this year, but he's durable. He's a tackling machine. Bostic, he has some bright spots. He still is sometimes a liability in coverage, depends on the tight ends. But like I said, now we had Cameron Curl. You don't really have to worry about that as much. And I don't see nothing but this future getting brighter for this defense. I haven't looked at the final season rankings yet. I don't know if you saw them yet, DujunneaB, but we said this team could be a top 10 defense, top 5 if the secondary held up. And I don't know if you saw the final numbers, but I can't wait to see them. But what was your take of the defense in this game? And might as well start recapping. What do you think overall this season, the defense, the progress that they made? And then I give my take after you talk about the recap of the season, after you break down the game.
Defensively, I thought they played as well as they could play. It's kind of one of those things when you look at Tom Brady, you're looking at a guy like a Peyton Manning who can come in and he can make the calls that he needs to make, and a lot of times he's going to make some adjustments at the line. You got to give Bruce Arians and Tom Brady credit. The weak link of this defense is coverage linebackers, middle of the field. We know that it's been that issue all season long. Guys did a pretty decent job, but they did some things to exploit that, and that's how they were able to get down the field in a lot of instances, not using Gronk. And we know that the tight end is an issue. They ran a lot of 2 tight end sets. That helped them out as well. Guys like Evans and AB are going to get theirs when they're going to get them. But overall, when they needed to make stops, they did. You would like to see them get at least 1 or 2 more. But again, I felt like they had a couple stops if you just make the call. I mean, it's obvious that their tackles were struggling with our ends. Chase and Montez were giving them fits. And they were struggling. At times, like you said, they were fish hooks like they used to do our boy Arakusa, and there were WWE moves. I mean, they didn't have a choice. I mean, and what I felt like should have been done though is there should have been more mix-ups. Moving these guys around, maybe putting Chase in the middle of the field, and knowing that at that time when you flop him around or whatever you're going to do, that you're going to bring the heat. That's a stationary target standing back there. I don't care if it's Tom Brady or not.
Mm-hmm.
He's stationary. He ain't going anywhere. He ain't running away from nobody. He can't even get away from his own shadow. So I felt like they could have done more. Maybe you bring a corner off the edge. Take a few chances. The game was close. Overall, the way they called the game, they played about as well as you could ask, given that there are weak spots on this team. Anybody talking about the corners, look, man, they're going against some of the best guys out there. I don't think people know about Godwin and his ability to play. People know a lot about Evans, but I don't think they know about Chris Godwin that much. That guy can ball, and doesn't need Evans on the field to do so. I thought overall they did a pretty decent job, especially against all the weapons that they have. I mean, they're throwing, two solid running backs at you. They have 3 wide receivers easy. They got 2 tight ends easy. I mean, they got weapons. They have a plethora of weapons. This could have gotten out of hand early and quick. This defense fought hard, and I know, people are giving Chase Young the business, but I thought that all of those guys, Chase included, did an excellent job trying to generate some type of stops. Like I said, they have some weaknesses that they have to shore up, and I've said it before. I think they're just a linebacker or so away, and this defense can be something to be reckoned with. They have to, do a little bit better job of containing things in the middle of the field. Bostic's too inconsistent for me. I like his aggressiveness and his ability to make tackles, but there are a lot of times where he's not able to cover, and then there's a lot of times where he's the one that's out of position when it comes down to gap responsibility. You see a lot of these runs kind of break off and get deep, and you saw that too. A couple of those runs that they had, whether it was outside or inside, those big ones, guys were just too aggressive, man. They wanted to get after Tom, and they took advantage of it. Unlike, Washington's offense at time not taking advantage of Tampa's aggressiveness on their defensive front. But I mean, for the most part, they hung in there against one of the league's best, and really they had every opportunity to win the game. And a few things just didn't go their way. That's the name of the game, baby. But it's a learning experience, and as a whole, Washington fans should be excited at what's going to come next year. After you retool, you bring a couple pieces in, get yourself solidified in a few areas. This is a young football team, so led by a coach that can teach and can coach guys up. I mean, you saw that all season long. And next season is going to be interesting. We can have an offseason, have some OTAs. No telling what this team can do next season, but I think people should be very, very pleased with what they saw on Sunday, despite the loss. This is something to really hang your hat on and to really have some joy about. I know I'm excited about next season and being able to cover this team as well going forward, because I really feel like we've talked about it in several instances, but I think we truly understand now that this really is a new, and fans need to get off the Debbie Downers or kick the can down the road and go to Baltimore, or, I don't know, become Dallas fans like every other person that hasn't been there. I don't know. Do something else, though, because this team's really, really looking good.
No doubt, no doubt. Robbie, to get your take before I recap this defense, give my thoughts on it. What was your takeaway from this game, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, it was close. Real quickly, scoring update. Ohio State was held to a field goal there. They're down 21-17, 5 minutes left in the second quarter. It's been an interesting matchup. I thought that Ohio State was going to tie it up right there. They got deep into the red zone. But yeah, my overall thoughts on the Washington football team, I really am impressed with their play. I think if Chase doesn't get hurt, towards the end there, you have him. Maybe they don't march down the field. Maybe they get a strip sack, something happens, who knows? But I felt that without him in the game, you saw sort of an emotional letdown by the defense a little bit. And you give Brady like an inch and he'll take a mile. And I think that that's sort of what happened towards the end there. I thought the offense played pretty well. Speaking to what DujunneaB was saying, they've got so many weapons. I was really impressed by our defensive stop. Evans is a beast. I followed his whole entire college career as an Aggie. He is lethal, and especially when he's got other weapons. For so long down in Tampa Bay, he was all they have, and now they've got 4 or 5 options. And so when he's one of 4 or 5 options, that's really dangerous. And so I felt that they were able to hold them to a pretty low-scoring game and gave themselves a shot. But overall, I just was really, really impressed by the play. I'm looking forward to next year. Next year, we're going to have a lot harder schedule. They just kind of released the teams that we're going to play next year. And obviously, you play all of the division leaders, right, when you have a division winner schedule. But on the flip side of that is if we can gain from that experience and win some of those games, then I think we're even more playoff ready, right? So having a harder schedule doesn't necessarily preclude us from doing better next year. It just means that we're going to have to take that next step. And we also, anytime there's an easy part of our schedule, like the early part of our schedule, we can't take that for granted next year, right? There won't be that opportunity.
Well, you got to remember there was no preseason also, so there was a lot of discombobulation and then learning themselves.
I'm just saying there aren't going to be as many give me games next year.
Definitely. But
you can bet that.
Yeah, I mean the way I look at it is the way this team played, and they showed the resilience and the things that they're going to address in the off season. Definitely on the wide receiver offensive side, they might go after wide receiver in free agency, or I'm not sure. We're talking all season about how deep the draft is on wide receivers, but I feel like the way the defense has played and getting pieces back, and the offense is going to definitely, I feel, improve with, like I said, Turner getting a full year under his belt, and hopefully training camp, OTAs will have that, and preseason. So I feel like we saw the progress throughout the season, from where they started to where they ended up, and I just don't think it's no going back now. I think that they got a taste of it, and they're going to want more, and that's why Coach has changed the culture where you don't have those guys that just want to be in the NFL and happy to be there. You got guys that's hungry that want to win, along with being in the NFL and actually putting the work in and not just doing lip service. So I think even though they're going to play division winners, the way they want to look at it is, okay, everybody say you got to look out for them. I think the way they're looking at it is you got to look out for us, because y'all had us winning 2 games this year, and we won the division and went to the playoffs. So y'all already don't have no faith in us. Just wait to see what we're going to do now to prove y'all wrong even more. And I think that's what's going to fuel them to become better, along with Coach.
I agree. You can see the difference in guys and how they approach the game. Chase Young is a prime example of that. You can get a real good feel of him. He had a really nice interview with Josita Anderson, one of my favorite reporters out there too, and on her podcast. The guy is just about winning, truly about winning, and he goes well with guys like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, you name it on the front. Guys just want to win. That type of attitude is infectious. You see it's not putting on either, Chase Young does it naturally. He's really pumping up guys. If you heard some of the things he said about Heineke when he came in for Haskins in the Carolina game, what he said about him afterwards, you see in this playoff game how he's pumping this guy up, and guys rally. You can see it's a collective attitude, and that type of attitude is infectious. It filters down into the deep parts of your team. The second and third guys pick up on that attitude, and when they come in, they feel like they can't let the guys down in front of them. Somebody goes down, it's next man up, but it's not just next man up, put a body in. These guys feel like, okay, here's my time to shine, but I can't let the guy in front of me down who I'm coming in for. Coach has done an excellent job, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And these guys are drinking it. They're taking care of what they need to take care of, and they're buying into it. You have the type of players that have talent, understand that they have talent, they are good, but they also understand that they can do more. They can learn more, and they also are soaking up this teaching that this coaching staff that Ron Rivera's put together is giving them. And you saw that throughout the season. I think that's what we talked about earlier in the season, or midway through the season. It wasn't about playoffs for me. It was nice. It wasn't about winning the division. I know that's what Ron said. It was about winning, and that's great. But I wanted to see progress. If you put those two together, then I didn't have a problem with what they wanted to do. And you saw that throughout the season. I mean, they were the first team to make the Pittsburgh Steelers mollywop the Steelers and begin that spiral for their season and really expose them for what they were. You can't knock what was done in a season with no preseason, a very short training camp, and think of all the new pieces that came in for this football team that had to come together. They had to come together to put out respectable football on the football field. Pretty interesting stuff. And let's not forget all the front office changes along with that. Pretty interesting stuff that they had to go through. A lot of adversity. Coach cancer. Didn't know if your starter and Alex Smith could even play again, and he had to be called upon, and really got this team going. It shows his leadership, how important Alex is, to this football team, but just how good of a guy he is as far as a person and a quarterback. So there's a lot to be positive about, man. I'm excited for fans to be able to see the growth of this team, and hopefully this continues, and because this city needs it, they deserve it. They've worked, they've waited in muck to get here, and some still want to think that they're in it, but you're not. This is fun to watch, man. This is fun to watch.
I say the same thing.
Real quickly, I just had two questions for DJ. Well, one is a statement. One, I want to congratulate you. You nailed their final record. I want to give you credit. You weren't on last week. You nailed it dead on. Only one to predict 7 wins. I wanted to give you a shout out for being able to do that. It's not easy to do. You're the only one of the 10 people. So a lot of people had a shot at it. Only one to predict it correctly. We did talk about before. We didn't think that was going to be enough to win a division, but it was significant improvement. I had a question. I was going back on social media yesterday, and some people were arguing that an arm bar is legal versus illegal. And I was hoping, speaking to what Carol was talking about before, at what point can your hand come up against it? Is it never legal? Is it only legal when they're in front of you?
If you hook the arm, that's a hold.
Yeah, a hold is a hold. And I've always said this too. Refs are going to call. They set the tone early of how they're going to call stuff. Personally, I don't think you can arm bar a guy at all. If you fish hook a guy, fish hook is a hold. It doesn't. It's not. You don't have to take a guy to the ground to hold him. You don't have to grab a jersey to hold him. We see guys get arm barred up against up around the neck area and in the shoulder area, and it doesn't get called. Most offensive linemen will say with inside the pads, inside the jersey area, most of the time it's still holding, but you can hide it really well, and most of the time they're not going to call that. But I'm not for any of it. I think it's a hold is a hold. But we all know, just like we know what PI is, we know what a pass interference is, but it depends on how the refs are calling it that game. And if they're not calling it, what you gonna do? You got to work with it. Like I said, it's a bigger problem. I wrote that article like 10 years ago about referees, and there just needs to be more study. There needs to be more refinement.
They ran through a couple of them players early, man. They got there before the ball got there, and what was funny was the commentators basically said, yeah, that should be offensive pass interference, and when it wasn't, they just sat there like crickets, like chirp, chirp, chirp. It was
clear.
Yeah, it was utterly ridiculous. Like I said, man, I had a couple of adult beverages in me, and like I said, I was cussing this TV out in so many different ways, man. It wasn't even funny, and I had company, and they was looking at me like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm not." I was pissed off to the highest festivity at some of them no calls, man.
I just laugh because a lot of this is about refinement and really, some of the biggest companies in the world their quality assurance department has a thing that they live by, and say that they're going to refine and improve processes. Well, that's what the NFL has to do. Creating more rules that are basically the same exact rule doesn't refine the rule, and they have to be a clear understanding, and it should be a clear understanding. Like I said before, it's very clear. You go back and watch a lot of these big games that Washington's in. League doesn't like this team. They don't like this team. They don't like this organization. They definitely don't like them this year. But the guys did an excellent job not allowing that to affect their play. They just kept balling and kept trying and kept plugging away. But that stuff's got to be fixed. And to be honest with you, I know Washington fans are upset about it. But when you look at all the other games in this wild card round, there were some awful, egregious calls that were not made, that were blatantly obvious. That is sports officiating 101, and the guys can't get it right. And these are the best crews that you have in the league. Yeah, miss me with that. You guys got to go and refine everything that you need, and need to go back to the drawing board, because that was absolute trash.
No doubt, no doubt.
Real quickly, I want to do a scoring update, and then I'll let Carol talk.
Yeah, go ahead. I figured you when I saw your face, I figured you was going to go ahead and break it down. Go ahead, Robbie.
So, I mean, they're scoring so quickly now. Like, it's Alabama's like, oh, right, we're the best team again, and they realized it, and suddenly 44-yard clip, touchdown, 2-minute drive, and then right back, basically they did nothing. They got the ball right back, boom, boom, boom. Long touchdown again. They're now up, I believe it's 35-17. Yeah. So
With over a minute left in the second quarter, Alabama's starting to look like the Cleveland Browns when they was doing it to the Pittsburgh Steelers the other day. I saw that score 28-0 in the first quarter. I had to look at my phone. I had to reboot my phone, because my phone broke. What's going on? And I looked at it again.
The worst first quarter in NFL playoff history. Wow. And this was a team that was 11-0 going into playing the Washington football team. And real quickly, I might add, now they're blaming the Ravens COVID situation on why their season fell apart, right? So, because they went from 11-0, had to have 3 games in 12 days, and suddenly they're like, their whole season unraveled. After losing to us, they lost
I could
4
recall
out of their
the
next 5 games.
I could recall the Washington football team having to play 3 games in 12 days before, and we didn't use it as an excuse to why we didn't make the playoffs. So, hey, they got exposed. Folks used the same formula, and they came up short. When Cincinnati beat them, I was like, yeah, they done. They done.
Look, their defense is not that great. And they played teams early at the right time where things were just starting to get together. Everybody's on the same playing field, and they have more fluidity with their team. They know guys. They were able to put things together. When it started to matter and teams started to build, their team stayed the same. Look, I don't want to hear nothing from Ben and the excuses. You got mollywop. Only question I got is to Juju. Are the Browns still the Browns? I mean, I'm just asking for a friend. That's all I'm saying. You got mollywop. I don't want to hear no excuses. And Joker's been mollywopping them the whole last half of the season. Since Washington got into that behind, they've been getting whopped. And to be honest with you, the Colts should have beat them too. But, we know what happens with Phillip Rivers-led teams. Jokers just fall off. I mean, they were up 24-7 early on them and should have dogged them and put them in the dirt too. So, don't nobody want to hear that stuff. I'm just wondering if they still the Browns.
Hey,
right.
man.
No, the Browns and the Bills, both of them had not been doing anything 20 years, and they're both gotten into the second round. So, hats off to those franchises and those fans. Talk about suffering fan bases. Both of them have suffered, I would say, more than the Washington football team, if they're all two franchises that may have. And,
no doubt.
It's impressive.
But just got to go over the unofficial defensive stats because, I'm a defensive guy. Just pulling up some of the numbers for the end of the year. They were ranked second in total yards, giving up 324. Pass yards, they were second, giving up 191 a game. Rush yards, they were tied for 13th, for giving up 112 yards a game. Points, they were fourth with 20.6 a game. And I feel like the most impressive stat for this defense, well, one of the most impressive stats, was the third down conversion percentage was 37.5, which was 6th. Now, if you recall last year, They were at the bottom of the league for most of the year, and it was historic how bad our third down conversion was. And that's why I say defense, when the defense is playing well and you have talent, the sky's the limit. And everybody talks about the 4 first round draft picks on the line and 5 count Ryan Kerrigan and yada yada yada. But it's different when they're actually executing and being effective on the field. You can have all that hype, and we've seen it before with some of our first round draft picks that they don't pan out. But the fact that we've basically hit on all 4 of these guys, and not even mentioning Matty Unitas. Not a first round
Could you
pick.
imagine if he was in there?
Exactly. That's why I was like, oh, I can't wait to get him back, get Landon Collins back, get
And
some
the
more.
rotation they have. I mean, in the rotation they have, this football team has on defense. The guys they have, not just the guys they put on the field, the starters, the rotation, the guys in the back. They haven't had this in a long time with the front seven. Makes a huge difference. But I'm looking forward when Ioannidis and Mr. Humble come back. Woo, it's gonna be nasty.
It reminds me of the Seattle defense, the Legion of Boom, when they had that front line that they could recycle. When they brought in the backups, they was just as big as the starters, and you couldn't get nothing going on them. And that's what I say, that the sky's the limit with this team. And the fact that like Cameron Curl, I feel like he's going to be a game changer for this team with his versatility, being able to play safety, being able to play corner, and being able to play in a box. I mean, do you know how many different ways you can disguise packages with that dude? And with the once they upgrade the linebackers, I'm like, oh, they just don't understand, man. I could teach classes on defense, man. It's going to be a beautiful sight to see. And with Jack Del Rio running, I feel like he was more conservative this year. We've seen some of his exotic blitzes when he has solid coverage on the back end. I feel like because he felt he had, a unit that was getting itself together, even though they were playing well because the front seven was getting their job done. I don't think that he really dialed up the blitzes. He played more, man zone coverage, cover 2, cover 3. He didn't really get exotic with it. So now another year in this system and the pieces they're going to add and the speed they're going to try to add, I already can't wait to see what that defense is going to do next year, man. It's just going to be a interesting offseason. What pieces before we wrap up? Because I know we got hockey talking a little while. I know you probably got to get ready to go.
I have a question, because I want DujunneaB to answer this.
Go ahead.
What do we do with Alex Smith, right? Because we talk about the defensive side. I think everything Carroll said we both would agree with, right? So the question for me, the defense will be there next year. The offense, if they could take a next step, that's when we can, win some of these playoff games. Because for me, I know that the defense kind of failed them at the end of this game, but it really wasn't on the defense, right? We think if the offense could have put up 14 more points, they wouldn't have needed to be in that situation. So, with that being said, Alex Smith was great. He got banged up at the end. We've got a lot of money committed into him right now. He hasn't made a final decision on what he's going to do. What are your thoughts going forward with that position? And obviously we need some wide receivers too, but how do we get our offense a little bit better to sort of match the intensity that I think the defense will bring?
You need a quarterback that can play consistently, and let's be real. It's not a calf strain because he if he even has a calf, and from my understanding, ain't much there. So it's not a calf strain, but this guy ain't gonna be able to play 4 quarters every week and do some of the things he was doing. It's not that he can't do it; his body's not gonna allow him to do it. So he has to be honest with himself. You're gonna have to play 2 quarterbacks because he's gonna need the rest. I mean, I don't think it was a matter of whether the calf was strained. It's just that he did a lot in those he took a lot of hits. He did a lot of work. I mean, he balled his butt off. But at the end of the day, that leg ain't been under that kind of work in quite some time, and it's fatigued, and it's not much muscle there to work with. I don't think you can go into that as go into the season with him as the starter, but I think there has to be a realistic conversation that he needs to have with himself. And I'm not saying that you get rid of Alex, because I think Alex he provides something to this football team. The knowledge that he has, when people want to soak it up and use it, I think it had an effect on Kyle Allen as well. What he has his football mind is invaluable. The way he comes in and prepares, the whole 9 yards, how he goes about his business is valuable to this football team. But, to say he's the starter, that's hard to say because 16 games, he's not playing 16 games. It's not because he doesn't want to, but that leg's not going to allow him to do that. I don't care how much work you get in because you know how it is. There's lateral movement. There's a lot of different things you got to do as a quarterback to keep yourself moving inside the pocket. And I said that in the game that he played before. It's like before he went out, it's just they needed to help him. He needed help. He was a stationary target. He couldn't get out of his own way because that leg wasn't allowing him to get out of his own way. And they weren't doing enough to help him in that regard, before he had to go out. So those are the things you have to factor in. I'm not saying to cut him though, but I don't think he's a full-time starter, and I don't think you can go and say, okay, we're going to go into this next year with Alex as our starter, and he's going to play 16 games. They have to go either sign a quarterback in free agency, and there's plenty of them out there. Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan, Watson wants out. Cam Newton's there. There's some good quarterbacks out there if you want to go the free agent route. And then you like we talked about, you have Heineke, you have Alex, you have Kyle Allen, and maybe you draft a third-round guy and you let one of those two guys or those three guys battle it out for the starting position, and then go about it that way. There's so many things that they can do. I mean, obviously, you don't want to overpay for a free agent quarterback for sure. You don't want to give up too much for him, that's for sure. Especially with the money they have tied up in Alex. But I don't see them letting him go or cutting him because, he's kind of one of the guys that I think they value more than just the football player. They value the man as well, and they're going to give him his respect. But I think there has to be an honest conversation between him with himself, and then there has to be an honest conversation between him and the organization as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The ideal situation, I'm not sure what the salary cap situation would be if he retired, stayed on as a coach / mentor or whatever. I saw an article somebody wrote, I don't know, I was just scrolling. But hopefully there's a possibility of that, because I feel like that would be the best scenario for both the team and him. And then that would give a chance for the young quarterbacks that they have, all three, Kyle Allen, Montez, and hopefully they re-sign Heineke. And see what they can do. Because like I said, you don't always need a big name to take over. You just need somebody that's hungry enough that can get the job done. And I feel like after seeing what I saw from Heineke, I think he has what it takes to be able to lead a team. Not saying to the promised land, to the Super Bowl or nothing, but I feel like that he definitely has the want, the will, and like you say, the dog in him to lead this team where they need to go into the next phase. So, like you said, I don't that leg isn't going to hold. I went on the record and said I didn't think he would ever play quarterback again, which I had no problem saying I was wrong. But, like you say, is that leg going to be able to hold up for 16 weeks? And we saw that it couldn't even hold up for six weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think this team is in a good position to be where they are, and hopefully they'll get the quarterback situation figured out ASAP, and then we ain't got to worry about it no more.
I do wonder if we can somehow find a way to renegotiate the contract in a way that he could be a coach and we can get that money back, because I think we could get another player for less potentially and use that money to fill, especially the wide receiver position. For me, that's like the number one, maybe even a tight end, and just continue to work on our offensive line protection. I think it was better this year, but you can never have too many good offensive linemen, especially they get injured and they can go down. And I think protecting the quarterback is key to success in this league. But DujunneaB, I really appreciate all of your breaking stuff down with us the whole season, and we'll definitely have you on in the off season, as we get back into the summertime and stuff like that. But if you click on sportsothb.com and click the podcast partners button, you can definitely check out the breakdown and catch more of DujunneaB. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
We'll just be having a podcast this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to give my take on why Bradley Beal is not a number one guy. So we're going to have some talk about those things. And again, you can follow me, NotBland21 on Twitter and pretty much on everything. And love talking shop with you guys. And thanks for having me on, fellas.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And I will say that Brad has played pretty well the last couple of weeks. But I understand what you're saying. You need kind of another guy maybe to go with them, and I'm not sure Russ is that guy, at least not from what I've seen so far. I mean, our issues, though, scoring's been good. It's like, how do we figure out that low post D is going to be the issue. So until we figure that out, the Wizards are in for a bunch more losses. So hopefully they can figure that out. But thank you, as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys.
All right, DujunneaB, take it easy, bro.
All right, brother.
All right, next guest we're going to bring in is Anna Knox. We're going to talk a little bit of hockey. First of all, I want to bring you in and ask, how have you been dealing with all this? And it's the shortest offseason we've ever had, but it's been a couple of months since we've seen you. How are you doing? Oh, you're muted still, I think.
There we go.
There we go.
Finally. You think I would learn that after teaching for as long as I have online? Doing well. There's ready to take on 2021 and whatever it's got to throw this way. It's great to see you guys. Carol, I've been following your successes with the car sales. And,
hey, thanks,
good
Anna.
For you.
I appreciate that. You know, starting to find my niche, you know, starting to get in the groove a little bit. It's been a good start to the month. And if anybody's viewing, you know, in the market for a new, used, or pre-owned certified vehicle, I work down at Waldorf Honda, 2450 Crane Highway, North Mount Side. Come holler at your boy. We're going to get your deal right, get you the best deal, the best price around. So come down there and holler at me.
That's awesome. Between that and then I cannot believe how big Zach is getting.
That's true.
It's like, you know, oh my gosh. Like,
he was so excited to see hockey yesterday. I turned around my laptop because it was the scrimmage. It was on my laptop. And I said, Zach, check what this is. And I showed it. And he's like, hockey! And he started running around. So he's excited to see it too. Well, I'm going to try to do a lightning round, short caps, thing. Next week we'll get more into the season once we get a couple of games. It's a very weird season for us this year.
Yeah.
There's no preseason games, so we don't have a whole lot to go into the season with. Usually we've got 4 or 5, maybe even more preseason games to sort of see how the lines are shaking out. A little bit of the same issues that Carol was alluding to with no, OTAs and games that don't count, so to speak. So
right.
We just had 2 scrimmages to go off of. I thought it was very cool that they did play-by-play on Facebook Live, so you got to hear our radio guys come together. And they mixed and matched some lines. We saw some games. They looked good. We didn't really glean a lot because with scrimmages, when you're playing your own team, I don't think, they're not going to hit full bore. Right. They're not going to chance damaging anything. They're walking through things. They look solid. It's really hard to glean a lot from that. One thing I will say at the top of the show is we kind of got a Monday skate lines after those scrimmages is kind of a little bit telling. Is they sort of were able to glean all the information from both scrimmages, sent a lot of people back. I'll mention some of the people we sent down in a moment. And we kind of got these lines. So I'm going to quickly run down the lines, and I'm going to get Carol and your thoughts on them. And then I'll talk about the people that we've, sent back to Hershey or loaned off, give our quick thoughts about that. We'll preview the week ahead, and then we'll get you in and out of here, hopefully in about 20 minutes. So that way you can get some sleep tonight, and then we'll bring the rest of our football guys back in, and we'll talk a little bit about the NFL playoffs as well. So a busy show. We're already on hour 2. Might go 3. We'll try to keep it short. These are the lines. So these lines were kind of almost old school lines from pre-2018, a little bit before the Stanley Cup run. We got Ovechkin, Backstrom, and Oshie returning together, which I love that line.
Yeah.
We got Marana, Kuznetsov, Wilson being the second line. We got Panic, Eller, and either Sprong or Sherry on that side. Panic being on the left side, where a lot of the season, I believe we saw him sometimes on the right side. So he flip-flopped. Hagelin has moved down in the 4th line to join Dowd and Hathaway, and that's been pretty consistent through the scrimmages and through that. Some of our lineups for our defensive pairings is Orlov and Carlson. That's set to be our top defensive pairing. Dylan and Schultz is our second one. Chara and Jensen, Zdeno Chara and Jensen would be our third line. And Siegenthaler and Trevor Van Riemsdyk is sort of that fourth one that they're rotating in.
Right.
And they're still trying to figure out which 6 of those 8 will make it, and whether Sprung or Sherry are going to make it. Samsonov is our main goaltender, and Vanacek is going to be our backup goaltender. So they didn't end up going with a veteran. So we had Anderson in practice and things like that. So those are some of the things. Let's talk about those lineups first. I'll get Carol's thoughts, then I'll get Anna's thoughts, and then we'll talk about some of the players that we've sent down or sent through waivers. Carol, I know this is kind of the first you're hearing of some of those lines because they came out today. What are some of your thoughts on that? I know that they have run Ovechkin, Kuzi, and Wilson together as well. So we kind of know our top 6 and our bottom 6. They may move around a little bit in that, but what's your general sense?
I mean, once they do the final cuts, they've been, it'll be another year together, another year, with a new coach. I haven't watched any of the preseason, so I'm not sure what they look like. I'm ready for the season to start, but it's going to be interesting. But their familiarity is definitely going to, help with the transition, and having those key pieces, that you can depend on, Nicky, Ovi, Oshie. You got Rana, starting to come into his own, and you have some of the younger guys. You got Hagelin now on the fourth line. I think that should help on the fourth line with his speed. The guys are going to, have a little bit more jump because when they get on the ice, they know there's a possibility, they might get a goal along with playing, gritty hockey. So offensively, I think they're going to be versatile. And the one thing I'm not sure, too much about Laviolette. You follow them more closely than I have. I hope that just like we spoke about with DujunneaB about the defense and moving people around and putting them in positions to win. I hope that he shows more flexibility to adjust the lines if it isn't working and doesn't stick with it too long. Because I know coming into a new situation, you don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction, and change stuff up too quick, but then you don't want to stick with it too long if it isn't working. So it's going to be interesting how he finds the balance to work with all of this talent and see how he, gets the lines to clicking with the fact where we can have 4 solid lines like we saw in 2018 and then hopefully go on another championship run.
Yeah, real quickly, I think putting Hagelin on the fourth line is great because he's a big part of your penalty kill. And I think having him well rested and not playing third line minutes but maybe fourth line minutes maybe opens up some more minutes for him on the back end on there. I think our penalty kill is going to have a different look. They were good last year, but now Zdeno Chara, who was part of the 5th best penalty kill in the league last year, now joins the team, and he wants to put in those minutes that Boston didn't want to give him. I mean, we briefly talked a couple of weeks ago about how incredible it was that Boston basically said to their captain, we want you to play every other night, and you're probably not going to be the captain, and maybe you should be a coach for us. And he said, I kind of want to see what I've got. I know that, and he's a workhorse, and he's, he practices well, and I mean, you could see it. I mean, he scored a beautiful goal. I put it on a post with cute posts of Zach watching hockey, and I also included him watching Zdeno Chara get his goal. And he looked good out there, and he's got that longest reach in the NHL, and I think he'll be bearing him on the third defensive pairing opens him up to be for penalty kill moments. So I'm excited to see how the penalty kill, which was already good, but could maybe take it to that next level and maybe be a difference maker for this team. Anna, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. I think that what we've seen from Chara, at least for someone like myself who kind of wasn't a huge fan when he was playing with Boston, to come out and show us his personality, that he's excited, that he has that drive, and I think that that's the most important thing right now is we all want that drive to get Stanley Cup, and he's going to definitely give it his all, which I think is awesome. And I do have to say, I like those first 2 lines. I really am going to hold a lot this season for kind of hold it over Brana. I need to see that number 13 come out strong and be consistently strong. And I think that playing with Kuzi and Wilson is going to be a perfect little marriage there. I think that's a great line. And I always like the Dowd Hathaway. You can't go wrong with those guys. The Orloff Carlson, I don't know.
I know you guys are not big fans of Orloff. It's well documented that I'm the big number 9 defender here. As number 9 is my favorite number, but they look pretty good together. And I think with Laviolette, who's a defensive-minded coach, Orloff has had glimpses where he's been really good. I mean, in that Stanley Cup run, I thought he was solid, right? Defensively also, not just on his offensive side, but I thought that he could be. And he's a really defensive-minded coach. If he thinks through all of these scrimmages, all these practices, that he could have those top-line minutes, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to be the top line defensively when we're kind of gauging more offensively. And then I think that they throw the Chara Jensen line when they need to do the shutdown, So what's your number 1 defensive pairing might be different depending on situations.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how they work together. I understand the initial fear. It'll also be interesting to see with a shorter season this year. We only have 56 games.
True.
It's going to be this sort of grinded out style versus all these other Eastern teams, which was the Metro plus Buffalo and Boston,
right?
Minus Carolina and Columbus. But Carol, give your quick thoughts on how the schedule could maybe affect things. I'm going to let my dog out.
Well, I know they did some realigning. You went through it. I haven't had a chance to study it myself. I've been, so deep in football. Now hockey time is about to come up, so now I got to start, getting caught up on everything that you've been posting. I've been so busy. But it's definitely going to play a role because, like you mentioned before, you don't have to travel. Everything's going to be on the East Coast. You don't have the late games. And, you have the steady, consistent schedule where you don't have, too many early. Well, I think they probably did say they had some early games, but when you go on a road trip,
just a couple, but mostly 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so they get more consistent start times. They can get into a routine, and as you mentioned with the shorter season, we saw with baseball and the Nats, they didn't get a chance to get themselves together in a position to try to make that run to defend the title. So I'm thinking it's going to definitely help each team along with the Capitals, and we're going to see how it plays out.
I do think that having a team who's been together in a core nucleus, I know it's a new coach, but the chemistry doesn't need to be rebuilt, so to speak. I think it'll help a team like the Capitals. Could hurt teams like the Rangers and a lot of other teams that are mixing up their lines because they don't have those early games to get the chemistry, or games that don't matter as much. So and as Carol kind of alluded to, you can't really start too slow, otherwise it could really hurt you because there's just not enough games to make it up like there is in an 82 game season. Anna, what are your thoughts on some of those things?
Yeah, no, I originally, when I started to look at the schedule, and I thought, okay, here's like 8 teams, and we play them each 7 times, or 7 teams, we play them 8 times, however it works out, could make or break, some of how things are to go, because either the Caps are going to rise up and say, okay, we play the Rangers, and this is what happened, this is what we're going to change the next time we see them, and then the next 6 or 7 times that we see them, or it's going to and so I think that there's like a benefit to that, but then I hate the fact that we're not able to see some other teams as consistently, like there's like I never really liked the going to the West Coast, because I was, as much as I am a West Coast girl, I always had problems with how well the team did, and then the times, and it was late games and whatever, so it was kind of a bummer to not see. I was okay with that, but I wanted to see them, Canadian. There's just some teams I'm going to miss, but I think this is going to let the Capitals as a team come together and say, okay, like this is when we're really going to like tighten everything, and we don't have those extra games, so we're going to come out strong, and we got to do give it our all.
Real quickly, I just want to, for people who may not have listened to our show a couple of weeks ago, the four divisions kind of will be silos, kind of like the different divisions were in baseball. So the East teams play the East teams, the Central teams play the Central teams. So Florida joined the Central, right? The Florida teams, which is really interesting because now you got Tampa Bay versus Dallas.
Right.
Which is crazy. They're going to play each other 8 times, which there's never been a rematch of the Stanley Cup 8 times in a season before, so that's strange. The West kind of stayed the same, and then obviously the East and West, all the Canadian teams went into one division, which means that there's definitely 4 Canadian teams making. One Canadian team will make the Final 4, which hasn't happened in a while. It'll be interesting to see if that helps or hurts them. But there's some weird scenarios where you could almost see like a Toronto versus a Boston in a finals, which you could never have seen before. So it'll be really interesting to see how this shakeup affects all these other divisions, especially the Canadian one. That's the most different from all of them, I feel. So that'll be really interesting to see. And so the top 4 teams will all play. It'll seed 1v4, 2v3. Winners of those will play for the division championship. And then they kind of go for a Final 4 style where they get reseeded based on regular season points for 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 again. Anna, some of your thoughts on some of that stuff?
Yeah, I just in my head I'm thinking, as a fan, wow, so we're gonna have to see, Marchand like 8 times and Crosby 8 times and players that we really can't stand, but we don't have to see Ryan Reeves. So I'm a little bit happy with that. I'm totally okay with that. But yeah, I think we just have to get into the mindset of COVID is just shaking up sports overall across the board, and that this is what it is. And I'm just grateful that it's back. And if this is how it has to be, and we keep the players safe by just keeping them within this division, and we can't cross borders with Canada. I'm okay with it, as long as they're playing.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Real quickly, and then I want to get Carol's take on that too. You mentioned Ryan Reeves, and it reminded me, and I just want to get this shout out in here. I love that one of our fellow Caps friends, Chip, who does a ton of modding for me in a lot of these Caps groups that this is going to be shared to. I love the fact that he sent a cameo to Ryan Reeves to get him to try to say something nice about Tom Wilson, and he sniffed it out, and I give Ryan Reeves a lot of credit. I thought it was pretty funny what he did, and it went viral. Like everyone's talking about it on major TSN, ESPN. It was on Washington Post. It went everywhere.
Hilarious.
So I shout out to Chip Tamlin, one of the best $100 trolls I've ever seen. $100 to get something to go viral is cheap today. So I was joking with him about that. I was like, man, you nailed that. Like that was so funny. So I'm happy we don't see Ryan Reeves, but I have to give him a little bit of credit. People should go check that one out. But Carol, while I try to find what Ginny's up to, give your thoughts on some of these divisional realignments and what you think it'll mean.
I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting, with the COVID situation, but they're trying to, keep the game going. I saw a statement by Gary Bettman that said that it would be cheaper to shut the season down, but they're going to lose, billions because of the realignment and the things they're doing, and restricting the fans into the stadium. So it's just good that we'll have hockey back. I think with the realignment, we know it's probably not going to be permanent, depending on how successful it is. Going in this first time doing it, it might catch on, it might not. We'll see. Having all the Canadian teams play. I don't know. That might. I mean, that's cool, but what fun is that? You want to play those top Canadian teams because what they bring to the table. So, I don't feel want to limit which teams play which teams. But like you mentioned, the border. Canada isn't really letting folks come over. So it is what it is this year. But it's definitely going to be interesting, and I hope the Caps can start off, as you said, start off on the right foot, and don't get into a hole and can see this team make the playoffs and see what happens when they make it, because they definitely have the talent, and OV isn't getting any young. I would love to see him get another chance to go drink out the Stanley Cup again, even though they say you're not supposed to do that no more.
And wouldn't it be cool if you got to hand it to Zdeno Chara? What a weird story that would be. You know, like that would be, you know, like, but good for him. I mean, he's the longest tenured captain in the league, and he basically was told by his team, no, but that's great. We're playing them again, as we've been talking about. We're playing them 8 times. You know, usually we play them a couple of times. I mean, you're not going to get more insight by anybody. I don't care if they change their structure, whatever. I mean, he knows those guys.
Yeah.
And
I think he's going to really prove, you know, where his alliance is, you know, and it's, of course, it's not easy. I mean, he's had 14 years in Boston, so, but you know what? They gave him the opportunity, and he wanted to basically say, I don't think he left on bad terms. I think he basically said, I've got more in me.
Everything they wanted. And they were really great, and I thought it was really great that the media called in and thanked him for all of the years. It's really sounds like we got a stand-up guy, and I'm excited to see what leadership. You know, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Carol and myself, about the Brooks Orpik effect, and hopefully he can bring a little bit of that, what we had and what I thought we were missing. I want to just quickly go through the people that were missing, or that we ended up cutting from the team, or not cutting, but reassigned, as they like to call it, right? So, so we've loaned a couple of players to Hershey. So Cody Clark, Brett Leeson, Garrett Pylon, Joe Snively, and Riley Sutter. And then they've also assigned Axel Johnson Fabili, from Sweden, to Hershey. And then there's Hendrik Lapierre has been loaned to a Quebec Major Junior Hockey League team. There's a couple of players where they haven't made decisions yet, so they haven't made all their cuts, and they're still trying to work on contracts. Right now, I'm not sure we're even cap compliant.
Right.
They have to do some you know, jogging of things to try to get their roster. I mean, they're really tight up against that cap.
Well, and I was kind of bummed, I have to say. I was kind of excited to see what LaPierre could do, but I understand there was a huge hesitation with him with injuries. So I can see where that's coming from. And the other one was that Riley Suter. I was looking forward to that kid, and I do think that it's not the last time we're going to hear about him.
Right.
For sure.
And so some of people will end up going on taxi squads, which are these sub squads that, you know, if some COVID something happens, they need to bring in other players. So I'm interested to see how COVID plays into this. And I know that you can hold more goalies, so I'm not sure Anderson's actually out of the mix yet. They might be trying to work on, you know, a cheaper contract for him, or getting him for the minimum, or where they may have to stash him. I don't know if there's going to be an exemption list where it doesn't count against the cap if he's not, you know, on the active roster, but he's in this, I think they call it taxi squad. So I don't know how all of that works into negotiating, but I'm hoping it would be nice to still have a veteran presence somewhere on the roster. I know that Copley has been, you know, reassigned, so hopefully he makes it back down to Hershey. I think he's on waivers. I think a couple other people are actually on waivers too, so it's, you know, somebody else can maybe pick them up. So it'll be interesting to see. Carol, any of those names stand out to you, or any comments about the construction of the roster?
Man, you know I don't know about these junior players. I let y'all.
I gave you a shot.
Yeah, you know, I'm just listening like, okay,
You just say,
all
I
right,
agree with
all right.
says.
Let's get the hockey started on Thursday. All right, let's go.
All right, there you go. So let's just talk about it. We've got a couple of games coming up. We're gonna have 3 games before the next time we talk. I'm gonna pull up the upcoming schedule right now. So we start on Thursday. Our first matchup is against the Buffalo Sabres, so a new divisional opponent. So we get to see them twice, Thursday and Friday. They do a lot of these back-to-back in the same arena this year, so less travel, less, you know, teams dealing with other teams kind of thing. So Buffalo twice at 7, and then Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, 12 o'clock game, Pittsburgh. So it's not like a Super Bowl Sunday one, but it is a playoff Sunday in the NHL, in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to start that with a game against at Pittsburgh on Sunday, and then we'll play Pittsburgh again still at Pittsburgh on Tuesday. So it'll be a couple of days between those. So we'll save the second Pittsburgh, but just overall Buffalo twice and then playing Pittsburgh once. I know we haven't had any preseason games to look at. We don't have a whole lot of knowledge. What are you sort of excited to see, I guess, in general terms, and what is your expectation starting our first 3 games on the road? I'll start with you, Anna.
Oh, sure. I'm just excited to see how, like what we've seen in the scrimmage and what we've seen in interviews and what we've seen with the players just in general. They look excited and they want to be out there. And I think that this is going to be the opportunity. They know, I mean, they're adults. They know that they have to come out strong, that isn't going to be a scrimmage against Buffalo. You have Eichel and Stahl to think about, but those are just 2 players on that team. You don't know what Buffalo's up to, what they're doing. Like you said, we haven't seen any preseason stuff. So I think it's going to just be about seeing how Laviolette keeps how he is at the bench, like, how he's going to control everything. Be anxious to see how Sammy does. And there's a lot of hype with him, and I think that I just want people to kind of pump the brakes on that and say, listen, yeah, he has the ability, he has the skill, but let's not put so much pressure and then start comparing him to Holtby or what if we had Lundqvist. It's apples and oranges at this point. He's just starting off, but I will say that I liked hearing Laviolette saying that he likes the young goalies, the Vanacek and the Sammy. They knew each other from Hershey, that they are friends, but also that he thinks it's time to give these 2 young players an opportunity. So he really supports them, and I think that's huge to have a head coach support the goalies, because that's going to help with the rest of the players doing so as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I'm happy that Sammy is okay. Remember last year left off, he got hurt with an ATV accident.
So
and
scary.
He didn't play in the playoffs, and I'm just hoping that the coach can still some of his just really drive and passion and his ability to convince teams that he's on to win early in his career. I mean, he within the first 3 years got to the Cup with 2 different teams, right? So that's an important stat, and I think it's something not to be overlooked. And hopefully he is able to really defensive first mindset, but continuing to still score and not get too bogged down, but still continue to play well. So, Carol, what are some of the things? We'll start with the 2 Buffalo games, and then your thoughts on that Pittsburgh game as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Like you said, haven't really got to see what the preseason and stuff like that. We've seen scrimmages, and that's it. It's ultimately going to come down to, like you said, Laviolette and him instilling his principles and the way that he wants to play, and how quickly this team absorbs it and buys into it. That's simple as that. And Buffalo is a team on the rise. They have some young stars that can make things happen, and Capitals going to have to make sure they on their game. Excuse me. The 2 young goalies. I've always been a fan of one veteran, one young guy. Now you got 2 young guys. Samsonov, I haven't followed him too closely. I didn't know about the ATV accident. I remember he got hurt towards the end of the season last year. But it's going to be interesting to see how they, step up and try to see who's going to take over the role as the number 1 goalie on this team. Samsonov had some work last year. The other guy, I can't remember his name, y'all said, but he, like you said, from Hershey. So, with Lundqvist out, they were looking to him to put some time in. It's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together, because, your team is only as strong as your goalie.
Very true. All right, well, Anna, we really appreciate you helping us break it down. We'll get more into the Pittsburgh one. We really don't know what to expect with that team either. They could be up, they could be down. I don't know if we know enough going into this game what to expect from that rivalry, other than I like the fact that Laviolette has played against them, coached against them in many different times. So I think he understands that rivalry, especially with Philly, but also even in his time with Carolina, although they weren't, I don't think, in the same division at the time, because I think he was a coach of them back when we were in the Southeast. but he still obviously played them a lot being in the Eastern Conference, so he still understands the intensity that will bring. It'll be cool to have I'm sure that game must be on national TV. I don't know if it's been announced.
Oh, I'm sure. But also, when I looked at the schedule, there is that dreaded Super Bowl Sunday, Caps, Pens.
Oh, so they have both. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I was wondering about that myself.
Yeah, which never seems to be a favorite.
Oh, no, it looks like we're playing Philadelphia on that matchup this year.
Oh, are we?
Or wait, is the Super Bowl the 14th or the 7th? I don't even know.
Don't even get me started, man. Don't even get me trying to figure that out right now.
Yeah.
Well, the 7th, we have a Sunday at 12, and that is against Philadelphia. And I'm going to guess that is because the Sunday on the 14th against Pittsburgh, which is true, is a 3 o'clock game. And usually
they wouldn't do that. Okay.
On the Super Bowl Sunday.
Maybe this will work in our favor.
Yeah, so maybe we play Philadelphia and we have Laviolette, and so that'll be actually his first time playing, coaching against Philadelphia for the Capitals, so that'll be interesting. Coming off the heels of actually we're going to be playing Boston earlier that week, so it'll be the first time that Zdeno Chara will go against his old team. So lots of interesting storylines towards the end of the month. Just so people know, we play Buffalo twice, then Pittsburgh twice, then Buffalo twice. Those are our first 6 games. So we're going to talk a lot about Buffalo and Pittsburgh over the next 2 weeks, both recapping and previewing games there. But should be an exciting season. I look forward to breaking it down with Carol and Anna. I wanted to say before I let you go, Anna, I did check out the PowerPoint podcast this morning. I listened to it while I was working.
You.
Fabulous show with you. I know that I did laugh when Gil said that anyone who's worth his salt does post-production work on their podcast. I'm not doing post-production on a 3-hour show tonight. So, Gil, I'm sorry. It's going up as is. So I'm agreeing with you, Anna, that you'll save a lot of time.
All right.
I
think he's worried about my language and having to edit things out, and I'm like, listen.
And I guess I don't give a fuck, so
exactly.
we'll go from there. So
that's really what it comes down to, and he was good last night. It came out right away. I woke up this morning and I thought, good go, like you have this.
I don't think I heard you cussing too much, so maybe that was helpful.
But I will say, thank you guys for this, and I just want to add one little NFL thing, since I know DujunneaB, when he was finishing up and you guys were talking about quarterback situation, Jimmy G is looking for a place to go, so maybe we'll bring San Francisco to Washington.
Interesting. I don't know about Garoppolo.
There's a lot of rumors already going around, but like I say, we can only wait and see. The offseason hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, if anyone wants to listen to more of Anna and listen to that Power Play Point podcast episode where they do get ready for the season in a fun way, we have a new podcast partners button on our sportsothp.com page. They click on that, and our next guest champ is on there. You guys are on there. We actually have 4 podcasts. Actually, all 4 podcasts are represented in tonight's show. So we have the Power Play Point podcast with Anna. We have DujunneaB's. We have Champs. We also have Brian's. So it's cool to have 4 different podcasts that were all represented in tonight's show. But people should definitely check that out.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again. And
we'll hopefully have hockey a little earlier in future episodes. We'll probably flip it up.
I'll be more awake.
We'll flip it up and probably start around 9 and start the show with hockey once hockey season starts next week.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to talking about at least 2 games. So at least we can talk about
3. We'll actually have the Pittsburgh game
3,
too.
yeah. So that's great. All right, well, have a fantastic night. It was great to see you guys, and take care.
I appreciate
sure
it as
my
always.
cast sweater for you.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
That's fantastic. That's what we need. And you know what? I don't ever buy a jersey because I always feel like I'm going to buy it and something's going to either the team's going to go in the trash or that player's going to get traded. So I'm going to have to find get my Caps gear out and that'll be my background.
Right, I was wearing my Holtby jersey earlier, speaking to that, so I understand that fear, but, best of luck to him out there. Luckily, we don't have to play him, so unless we somehow meet them in the finals, so that's good.
That's too far off. All right, cool. Well, have a fantastic night, and I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, all right, Anna, take it easy.
Yeah.
All right, so we're also going to bring Brian back in. We're going to do a speed round, because I'm going to try to finish this whole segment by 11. Although last week I said it was going to be a 15-minute segment, and it ended up being 40 minutes. But it was fantastic, so I won't be too upset. Real quickly, Carol, just so that you know, we were going to talk about this during the football segment, but DujunneaB went long and great, so we're going to do our own segment right now where we're going to break down real fast what happened last week in the NFL and our quick thoughts and predictions on this week, and then we'll get out of here. Let's start off. We'll keep it simple. Instead of going through all of them, there were 6 games. I will just quickly go over the scores real fast so people know are up to date with what happened, and then I'm going to let each one of you guys pick a favorite game that wasn't the Washington football team game, because I feel like we've already kind of broken that down a lot. And then we can talk about that, and then we'll go on to this upcoming week and make quick predictions. So the other games, Colts and Bills, was a pretty good game, actually. The Bills ended up winning that game 27-24. The Rams and Seahawks, that was one of the surprising games of the week. The Rams ended up winning that game 30-20 in Seattle. The Bears and Saints game I loved was on Nickelodeon. That was incredible watching the slime cam. I watched it with Zach. He loved it. The Saints ended up winning that game 21-9, but I think it was closer in the first half than that score indicates. We already talked about the Buccaneers beating the Washington football team 31-23. We also talked a little bit with Tim earlier, but the Ravens were able to beat the Titans and outrush one of the best rushing attacks in the league, 20-13. And the most surprising game of all of them was the Browns outscoring the Steelers 28-0 in the first quarter. We mentioned earlier that was legendary. One of the worst first quarters ever for a team, especially a 3 seed. It was pretty surprising. The Browns ended up scoring 48 points and winning 48-37 over the Steelers, who are in a complete free fall since the Washington football team took them from 11-0 to 11-1. So those were the games. I'll let each one of you guys talk about one game that meant something to you. I'm going to start with you, Carol. Any game, or if you want to talk about 2, I'm not going to be like one only, but what were some of your thoughts about super wild card weekend?
I guess the game that threw me off was the Seattle game. I didn't know that Goff was going to play. I took Seattle. I thought the backup was going to go in, but that Goff, he was able to go in there and handle their defense and give Seattle its 4th loss in 5 playoff games under Pete Carroll in the last few years. And then I guess in the Baltimore-Tennessee game with Derrick Henry, I mean, 2,000 yards is a hell of a feat to do during the regular season and run as hard as he does and as fast as he does. It was only a matter of time till, somebody was going to have his number, and I was looking at some of the stats, and this was one of the first games that there were a lot of he was getting tackled by the first guy and not breaking tackles. So I just think that it was a combination of him putting up them yards and then leaning on him so much, and Baltimore being a quality team that they played some good defense and they were solid tackling, and they were able to take Tennessee out of their rhythm with the way they usually run the ball and feed off the pass. So, I mean, feed the pass off of the run, so, correct to say. But, those were the 2 games that were interesting to me. But other than that, it was a good super wild card weekend, 3 games each day. It was a good way to start the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Washington football team lost.
I ended up catching a little bit about all of them, and I think I thought it was really incredible that all 6 games were on national TV. DC's People Champ, I'm going to go to you next. 2 games that are not the Washington football team game, what were interesting to you?
Right. So the first one that was really interesting was Cleveland and Pittsburgh, obviously. The fact that Cleveland went out to a 28-0 lead in the first quarter was just so telling, and it just showed how exposed Pittsburgh was going into the playoffs and everything like that, showing how tenacious that the Cleveland team are when it comes to playing. And so that was definitely a jarring one right there. The other one that really stood out to me outside of the Washington football team was the Rams, of course, because when the alert came out that they said Jared Goff is going to be active, I'm like, fam, he literally just had surgery on his throwing hand almost 7 days ago. And yet he's active. And not only was he active, but then he played in the game. And so that really stood out to me that Goff not only was active but played, and they won over Russ, who really, really struggled in this game. He absolutely struggled, and it was because of that LA was able to move on. So those were my two games, was Pittsburgh and Cleveland, because of how Cleveland just absolutely boat-raced Pittsburgh, and the fact that LA, the Rams were able to get Goff not only in the active but in the game and win.
Yeah, Brian, what were some of your what was your highlights, your top two games, let's say, for last week?
Well, I really want to talk about the Nickelodeon broadcast of the Saints-Bears game because I watched like you, Robbie. I watched that from start to finish, and I'm really happy I did. I thought it was excellent. I love how they explained the game for kids on basically every, they explained pretty much everything. It was kind of like football for dummies in a way. The way they made sure everything was explained, and I loved all the Nickelodeon references. Like Nate Burleson, who was the color guy, would be like, "This is like when SpongeBob did this," or "This is like when this happened on Rocket Power." And I loved that. We need more of that. We need more of that in sports, period. It was awesome. I would love to see that in baseball, for example, like in a baseball playoff game or like an all-star game or something would be awesome. Really huge credit to Nickelodeon for pulling it off. I thought it was excellent and much more fun than the regular broadcast. And I guess the second game I'll talk about is Cleveland-Pittsburgh. I know Cleveland fans. I know I have a lot of friends who are Browns fans, and they've been waiting for this for a really long time. This is the first win. This is the first playoff win for the revived Cleveland Browns after they relocated to Baltimore. This is the first win for the revived Cleveland Browns and the first playoff win for the franchise since 1994. This is a long time coming, and like Champ said, Pittsburgh was clearly dead tired and clearly exposed from the end of the regular season. And the Cleveland Browns deserve this win. To go into Pittsburgh and exercise all your demons like that is awesome, and it was awesome to see. I don't know how they're going to do next week against the Chiefs, but kudos to the Browns for winning that game.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to say one last thought about the Nickelodeon game. I love the special effects. I mean, it took them weeks, if not months, to put these packages together and these special effects. They actually filmed a game earlier in the season and practiced all this stuff and run-throughs and what they were going to have to do behind the scenes. Obviously, it was never released to the public, but I mean, that's what they kind of backwork they had to do to be able to put this production together. And I thought that it was phenomenally done. And I really am happy that they, as you said, we need more of that. I think if people wanted to have the nitty-gritty, I had it on 2 screens, so I could watch the replays on the other one, because the replays were different, completely produced differently. Like, I like that the line has some cool graphics to it, so it's easier to see where they're going to. Just little things like that I thought were great. And whenever they got in the end zone, virtual slime would then go over it, so it was very obvious when they scored. But then in the replays, they showed it naturally. Because I thought it'd be a little bit too much of a gimmick if they showed slime from different angles, right? So, but I was happy it was a combination of real football, but also something that the kids could really enjoy. So I thought that was phenomenal, something we've never seen before, first time in NFL history, and I thought it went really well. And I hope we get maybe one of those games every playoffs. I think that would be great.
And like I said, expand it to more sports. Don't just limit it to football. We need that in like baseball, hockey, basketball. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, and a lot of these parent companies could definitely do it. I mean, Viacom owns CBS and Nickelodeon. So if some of these leagues would agree to it, a lot of these companies have. I mean, think about Disney and Mickey Mouse. Like, they could do something like this. They've got special effects teams up the wazoo. So they could do something for the NBA, a la something that we saw at Space Jam or something. There's opportunities there that you could do something fun. So it'd be interesting to see. I guess Space Jam is Warner Brothers, but
let's go ahead and move into the divisional round and preview these games.
Okay. Carol doesn't care about Nickelodeon.
Yeah, we getting off on a tangent. We talking about Nickelodeon and Viacom. Let's just finish wrapping these games up so we can wrap up and get up out of here.
Okay, sounds good. Divisional round, we got 4 games. We got the Rams at the Packers. It's a 4:35 on Saturday game. And then the night game is going to be the Ravens at the Bills. It's the 8:15 game. Browns at the Chiefs. That's a 3 o'clock game. And Buccaneers at the Saints. That's the 6:40 game. I'll let each one of you guys quickly break it down. Carol, why don't you start off with your thoughts on the playoff slate?
With you said the Rams versus the Rams.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Rams Packers.
The
Rams,
Packers, yeah. I'm anxious to see what the Packers are going to do. They were getting hot towards the end of the season. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Packers in that one.
Ravens Bills.
Yeah, the Ravens Bills. That's going to be interesting because Josh Allen been playing some solid ball. Lamar Jackson, he has the hanging over his head. He won a playoff game now, so see what's going to happen. I think. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go with Buffalo. Buffalo playing some solid ball. I think with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs is going to give the Ravens defense a little bit of problems. What was the other matchup? It was.
So the next one, I'll lead you for each one of them, so it's easier. Chiefs Browns is the next one.
Yeah, Chiefs Browns. The Browns playing some good ball. The defense is solid, but I don't know if anybody can slow down Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Tyreek Hill out there. So I'm gonna go with Kansas City, and then the final game
Buccaneers
is
Saints.
Buccaneers Saints. That's gonna be a hell of a duel. Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Saints at home. Kamara's back healthy. Depends on. It's going to depend on the referees and if they they called stuff that they did against the Washington football team. That's going to give Tampa the edge, but I'm going to say they're going to call the game better because they got more respect for the Saints and they like Drew Brees. So I'm going to go with the Saints upsetting Brady and the Bucks.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because both of those players, are near retirement age. They're always fighting each other for these best of, all-time stats, and they already got to play each other twice this year. The fact that they get to play 3 times in a year is pretty exciting. All right, I'm going to lead DC's People's Champ through the gauntlet. We're going to start off with the Rams Packers.
Packers. Go Pack, go. I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is on the MVP level this year, and he's just going to continue it and just get the victory. It's in Green Bay, it's in Lambeau. You know it's going to be cold as all get out. It's going to be Packers on the way.
All right, then Ravens at the Bills.
I like the Bills in this one. Though the Ravens are very scrappy, they showed that in their victory against the Tennessee Titans. But Josh Allen is just going to play on another level this year, and even playing on another level in this playoffs. So I really feel like they're going to do something special. The fact that this is their first playoffs in over 2 decades, and they're just playing so well, I think that they're going to make it to the AFC Championship game. So I'm going for the Bills.
All right, we got the next one is Browns at the Chiefs.
Chiefs! As much as I love how the Browns are able to boat race Pittsburgh, I just don't think their defense is good enough to deal with Patrick, where Mahomes is at, and that offensive dynamic with Eric Bieniemy calling those plays. So I'm going with the Chiefs.
All right, the last one is the Battle of the Goats, Buccaneers Saints.
This one is tough. Because, Tom Brady's showing that even though he's not in the Patriot system, he can still play well. He is the GOAT. So is Drew Brees. Man, if I had to flip a coin, I would go with New Orleans. Simply because not only just flip a coin, but also they can run the ball a lot better, a little bit better than Tampa Bay can. Tampa Bay does have Leonard Fournette, but I think with Alvin Kamara in the lineup and healthy, I think they have the edge. So I'm going for New Orleans.
Got it. So just so people know the lines right now, the Green Bay is favored by 6.5, Buffalo is favored by 2.5, New Orleans is favored by 3, and Kansas City is favored by 10. All right, Brian, I'm going to lead you through the gauntlet. So we got Rams Packers start.
I'm going with Green Bay in this one. I think Green Bay is the better team. Aaron Rodgers is going to win another MVP award this year. Aaron Donald is banged up for the Rams in this game, and if he doesn't play, the Rams have absolutely no chance. He's one of the best defensive players in football. So if he's out, the Rams are done. But either way, I'm picking the Packers.
Got it. Ravens at Bills.
Ravens-Bills, this was a tough one because I actually really want the Ravens to win. I like Lamar Jackson a lot, and I want my friends who are Ravens fans like Tim to be happy. But I just think Buffalo is a great team this year. I think they're almost underrated in a way. I feel like people don't talk about them as much as the Chiefs. So I like the way Josh Allen's playing. I'm going with the Bills.
All right, and then the Browns at the Chiefs.
Obviously, I'm really like I said, I'm really happy the Browns beat the Steelers. But I think their Cinderella run comes to an end against the Chiefs. Chiefs are the defending champions for a reason. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC for a reason. They get it done at home, picking Kansas City.
All right, last one is the Battle of the Goats, Buccaneers at the Saints. What do you think?
Yeah, this one's tough because, like you guys have said, it's really tough to beat a team 3 times in one season, which is what the Saints would do if they win this game. But I think they will do it. I think the Saints are playing some inspired football. Drew Brees, this is his last season. In all likelihood, he's already got a job lined up with NBC. So I think the Saints are playing inspired football for him. It's going to be tough, but I'm going with the Saints. So Packers, Bills, Chiefs, Saints.
Okay. So you're going with the home teams in all 4 games.
Yeah, I believe actually Ken, Carol, and I all have the same picks. So
you guys all do. And I kind of have the same picks too, although I think that maybe the one that I think would be the most likely to upset is either the Buccaneers or the Ravens, right? So those are the 2 that I'm flip-flopping a little bit on. I'm going to go I don't know if I want to pick the Ravens. I don't want to jinx them. But I do have some feeling that the Ravens are playing some inspired ball right now, so I would not be shocked if they are able to go to – I know the Bills are playing great as well, but the Ravens have a pretty good defense, and it'll be interesting to see how having a crowd in Buffalo, if that has a little bit of effect or not. So that's the one where I'm a little more wishy-washy. But all right, well, we got all of it in, and we got it all in before 11. I'm going to let these guys have their final send-offs. We've talked about it before. Power Play, if you go to the podcast partners button, it has the Power Play Point podcast button. It's got the podcast with DujunneaB. It's also got DC's People's Champs podcast and Brian's, so definitely click on that to listen to all of them. But I'm going to let each one of them give their shout-out for their podcast real quickly in 2 minutes or less. I'm going to start off with DC's People's Champ. What's going on in wrestling?
All right, so this coming Saturday for the No Spots podcast, we are going to have a nice little topic that was picked out by the SIP, and I challenge you to pick this one out. We are going to give our top 5 favorite wrestling matches of all time that we would introduce to a new wrestling fan. So definitely want to tune in for that. We're going to also preview Hard to Kill, which is coming up. We're going to preview Hard to Kill, which is coming up that very same night, and recap Genesis. And we're going to recap the week that was and talk about that as well. So we got that coming up for you this coming Saturday on the No Spots podcast, part of the Radio Network. Myself.
Hey, DC's People Champ, you might want to get to the TV, man. They got Randy Orton and Triple H going at it right now, man.
You know what? I'm going to watch tomorrow. Because I want to watch it with a clear mind. Because it was supposed to be Randy and Drew, but unfortunately Drew McIntyre tested positive for COVID-19, so he's in quarantine right now. So that's why they did this, because Drew is unfortunately in quarantine. So,
yeah, well, Triple H and Randy Orton going at it right now. They just started, and blood has already been drawn.
Okay, I'm definitely going to watch this when I wake up in the morning.
Had to give you a teaser for your own show.
There you go. Well, Champ, thank you as always for breaking down multiple different sports. I love the Caps outfit. We got a lot more Wizards and a little bit more NFL talk to talk about next week with you, and we look forward to it.
See you guys next week. Take care.
All right, Champ, take it easy, Mike.
All right, Brian, let people know what they can find out on Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan.
New episode just dropped today. We recapped all the games from Super Wildcard Weekend. Talked about pretty much everything that happened. Then I did an interview with one of my best friends, Pat Stein. Shout out to Pat. And his girlfriend, Becca, was also on the show. We talked a little bit about the TV show Schitt's Creek, which we all love, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend. It's a great show. And then we talked about the Mets a little bit, making their big trade for Francisco Lindor. It's a great interview. I highly encourage everybody to go check out today's episode. It's a longer episode than normal. That's just how it turned out, but it's a great episode. Go check out Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan. Follow us on, find us on Facebook at Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Follow me on Twitter at bbrian1991. A lot more content coming your way.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brian.
No problem. Have a good night, guys.
All right, take it easy, Brian.
All right, and with that, we're down to 2, and it's been a fun show. I appreciate, Carol, you letting me start it a little bit early. I mean, we're already ending at 11. Who knows? We could have probably gone past midnight if we hadn't. So
pretty much.
So I appreciate you letting me do that. One thing I did just want to shout out. I know it's a show not about politics, but I definitely, my thoughts and prayers to everyone that was affected in the Capitol situation last week. You know, it was a scary time, you know, here in D.C. and just, you know, everyone be safe. I mean, there's lots of threats of violence happening over the next week or two. I just, you know, I hope that everyone is able to stay safe and follow the advice of the mayor and just kind of stay out of D.C. You know, for the inauguration. It's rare that we tell people not to come to D.C. for inauguration, but I hope people listen to that. And that's my one little shout out. And also stay safe, obviously with all the COVID stuff out there, but it's just kind of a crazy time.
No doubt, no doubt. I talked about it enough last night on At the Bar Radio. I really don't have too much to say on the show about it tonight. Just go check out the website, sportsothp.com. I already talked about, Robbie already talked about all the podcasting partners. Check out the link for Sports OTHP apparel. Got a new sweatsuit coming tomorrow. I just got made up with Arakusa, one of our partners / sponsors for At the Bar Radio, and partners here on Sports OTHP. So I'll be having some new apparel coming. You know, we got sweatsuits and other stuff coming with the new logo that we have for the apparel line. Not the same as the Sports OTHP logo that we have for our show. So be on the lookout for more stuff coming in that aspect. Like I said, if you're looking for a new, used, pre-owned certified vehicle, come holler at me down at Waldorf Honda, 2450 Crane Highway. They're just about every day. So if you're in the market, don't hesitate to inbox me, hit me up. You see the flyers on the page on the show that we're doing on my OBS feed. So just hit me up, let me know what you're looking for, and I'll make sure I have to make the best deal for you, and make sure your dollars are stretched. Appreciate y'all checking us out as always. We hit 2,000 likes on our Facebook page. We've been getting great views, getting shares, getting likes on our videos. So appreciate that as always. Keep on supporting the movement. You know, real DC sports coverage is out there now. You know, we've been out here 4 years, going on season 5 now. So you know what it is, man. Share it. Let folks know it's real DC sports me. Don't just keep it to yourself. Let the folks know. Got some folks that know what they're talking about. Break it down every week. All the sports, best coverage, best insight, best knowledge around. I'm in the show as always with Renegade 703 Money Convo. That hit over 12,000 views on YouTube. Got over 500,000 streams on platform and on all streaming platforms that he's on. So make sure you go check him out, follow him, be on the lookout. So much more stuff coming. 2021 is going to be major for us and you, hopefully. DC Sports Without the Politics is not just a catchphrase, it's not just a motto, it's what we do, and I just messed that up. Oh man. See what happens when you try to do too much at one time. There we go. Alright, now we can get it. That was supposed to go a lot smoother. CP3 live from the lab, and we out.
Money, I love that money. Money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you always been talking about. And I don't wanna be the one who always really talk about. And you don't really want play. You don't know